Not everyone who remarries in their later years finds happiness. Some even feel more regret than they ever did living alone. It might sound hard to believe, but it is a truth that many only admit after stepping into a new marriage, at a time in life when all they really wanted was a peaceful ending. At an age where loneliness is often seen as the enemy, many rush to grab another hand only to trade away their freedom, fall into conflict with their children, and slowly lose the identity they spent years holding on to. So what exactly causes the regret? Was it choosing the wrong person or choosing the wrong time? And more importantly, if you are considering getting married again, how can you avoid repeating the same painful lessons? In this video, you will hear raw emotional stories from people who once believed remarriage would rescue them from loneliness, only to realize the cost was far greater than expected. You will also understand why so many late-in-life marriages lead to regret, and most importantly, you will hear honest reflections that may help you figure out what it is you truly need at this stage of life. Before we go any further, leave a comment below as a personal commitment to yourself, something like "I choose peace, and I will not settle for what no longer fits." And if you find this video meaningful, please like it and subscribe to the channel. We are building a space where people, no matter their age, can feel heard and respected. And to help you truly feel that this is not just theory, let us listen to a real story, a raw, deeply human moment, one that might just make you stop and reflect. Mrs. Evelyn is 73 years old, a petite woman with calm eyes that still hold a trace of the gentleness that once made people adore her. She had a long and fulfilling marriage that lasted nearly 40 years with her first husband, Mr. John. They went through war, hardship, illness, and later more prosperous days. But what mattered most was this: they stayed together, never once leaving each other, not even for a short stretch of life. When Mr. John passed away from a sudden heart attack, she did not scream. No one ever saw her complain. But everyone could sense that something inside her had died along with him that day. She kept living, tending the little garden behind her house, chatting with her grandchildren every weekend. But at night, when the doors were locked and the lights were out, she would lie there in a cold emptiness that no blanket could ever cover. "Loneliness did not kill me, but it made me stop wanting to live." That is what she said softly, as if describing a daily habit. Then one day she met Mr. Richard. They happened to sit next to each other in an art class for older adults. Richard was nothing like John. He was outgoing, playful, always cracking jokes at the right time. More importantly, he made her feel seen, not as an old lady, but as a real woman. They spent a few months getting to know each other. Coffee dates, art exhibits, weekend trips to the farmer's market. She started laughing more, eating better, and enjoying conversations with her children and grandchildren again. She thought, maybe I should open my heart one more time, and so she remarried. It was a small, cozy wedding, and everyone was genuinely happy for her. But that joy did not last long. Just a few weeks after moving in with Richard, things began to change. He wanted her to give up her old house because it is time to leave the past behind. He insisted she change her peaceful morning tea routine because a husband and wife should eat breakfast together. He was visibly annoyed whenever she spoke with John's biological son, who had called her mom for over 30 years. Every little thing, from the tablecloth, the teacup, to the way she combed her hair, seemed to become an issue. And although he never yelled or insulted her, Richard still created a kind of pressure, a stifling atmosphere that made her feel like a stranger in her own skin. Her daughter, the one who had once encouraged her to find love again, began acting distant. She did not like how Richard inserted himself into things that had always belonged to Mom's world. With each visit, she stayed less time. With each phone call, her tone grew colder. Evelyn knew, and it hurt, but she said nothing. No complaints, no blame. Until one late afternoon, just as the sunlight disappeared from the porch, she sat folding an old embroidered napkin, a gift from John, that Richard never liked, and she whispered, not to anyone, not for anyone to hear, but loud enough for her own heart to understand, I need a companion, not a husband. Just 8 words, but they cut deep into the part of her loneliness she once believed she had escaped. Mrs. Evelyn was not wrong for opening her heart. She had simply forgotten that love in old age is not about fleeting emotions, but about harmony in the smallest things, the way we stay quiet, the way we preserve our space, the way we exist side by side without overpowering one another. What she truly lacked was not a life partner to lean on, but a kindred spirit, someone who lets her be fully herself when they are together. If you are standing at the edge of a decision like Mrs. Evelyn's, please take a pause. Not to doubt love, but to ask yourself honestly, does this person make me feel free, or do I shrink myself to fit in? Love in later life needs one thing: real peace. No drama, no pretending, no trading freedom, just to feel warmth. Mrs. Evelyn's story is not just something to listen to, it is something to reflect on. So, what lies behind those quiet tears? Why does happiness, which once seemed within reach, turn into something that brings regret? There is one thing many people do not realize before entering a new marriage in their later years. We do not always remarry because of love. Many choose to remarry not because their hearts are beating faster, but because they are simply tired of that empty feeling that creeps in when the sun goes down. Loneliness does not kill, but it slowly eats away at us day by day until we start fearing the idea of simply existing on our own. And in that fear, when someone new appears saying sweet things and offering a warm hand, it is easy to mistake that for love. But sometimes it is just a lifeline in the middle of a vast empty sea. And we grab it not because we love, but because we do not want to sink. The line between needing a companion and being afraid of being alone is incredibly thin. But if you cannot tell the difference, it is very easy to step into a life where the person next to you is not truly the right one, just the one who showed up at the right time. And the right time is not enough to build something that lasts. On top of that, many people who remarry later in life skip over the serious conversations that should happen before marriage, maybe out of awkwardness, maybe because they think, at this age there is nothing left to hide. But it is exactly that mindset of keeping it simple that often leads to future cracks in the relationship. Not talking about money and later arguing over spending assets or inheritance. Not talking about children and then facing conflict over how to deal with stepkids. Not talking about personal boundaries and one day realizing you no longer feel like yourself. Marriage at any age requires communication. But in our later years, communication is not just for understanding. It is to preserve the peace we have worked so hard to build. When two people have already lived long lives carrying their own scars, clarity becomes even more important to avoid unintentionally hurting each other. Another reason many people end up with regret after remarrying is the feeling that they have lost themselves. When living alone, even with loneliness, people still hold on to their own rhythm, their favorite tea flavor, their nightly instrumental music, their unique gardening routines, their connections with a late spouse's family, or simply the right to enjoy silence without explanation. But when you begin living with someone new, all those little things, bit by bit, get reshaped. Some people accept it, but many others, like Mrs. Evelyn, come to realize they have had to shrink themselves just to fit someone else's world. And that kind of sacrifice, if it is not met with genuine love and respect, leads only to exhaustion. The loneliness of being with the wrong person can be far more painful than being alone, because it is not just about missing someone, it is about feeling out of place in the very space that was supposed to bring you peace. Old age does not need someone who wants to fix you. It needs someone who truly sees you exactly as you are. And that can only happen when you understand what you really need, when you are brave enough to set healthy boundaries, and when you are clear-headed enough to realize having someone by your side is not always a good thing, especially if it means giving up parts of yourself that took a lifetime to build. None of this means you should not remarry. It simply means that if you prepare more carefully, if you know what you truly need, then yes, you absolutely can start over without carrying regret. Before entering a relationship at this stage of life, maybe the most important question you need to ask yourself and answer honestly is am I truly in love with this person? Or am I just desperate to escape loneliness? That is not an easy question to answer. Because the feeling of being cared for, someone calling in the morning, checking in at night, can easily fool you into thinking it is love. But real love is not just about the comfort of having someone nearby. True love is when you can see all the imperfections in another person and still choose to stay, not to fill a void, but because you genuinely want to walk this road with them. Growing older brings a very unique kind of loneliness. It is not just the emptiness that comes from missing someone. It is the silence that stretches on after you have lost so many things, loved ones, habits, your health, and sometimes even your sense of trust. And in that quiet, a new relationship can feel like a hand reaching out in the dark who would not want to take it. But if you are entering something just to avoid feeling alone, then chances are you will end up choosing the wrong person simply because they showed up at the right time. And when that loneliness begins to fade, you may start seeing the things you once ignored, the differences in values, in lifestyle, in how you both handle situations. All those small things can eventually become cracks in the relationship. So take a moment of quiet. Ask yourself, if I were not lonely, would I still want to be with this person? If the answer is yes, because you feel safe, respected, and free to be your true self, then that is a solid foundation. But if the answer is no, then maybe what you truly need right now is not another person, but yourself, learning how to be kind and whole on your own, before inviting someone else into your world. If you are already certain about how you feel, then the next step, just as important, is to sit down and have an honest, clear conversation with your potential partner. Everyone knows communication is important, but very few actually do enough of it, especially in later years. At this age, we often hesitate to bring things up. We feel awkward talking about money, assets, or life values, afraid it might hurt someone's feelings. We worry about being seen as calculating when all we really want is peace. But that silence can quietly plant the seeds of future hurt. Before stepping into a serious relationship, take the time to sit down together and talk openly, especially about the things that seem too hard to talk about. You need to know who will handle the finances. Will you keep assets separate or combine them? Will you share living expenses? If either of you has children from a previous marriage, will their interests be protected? Then talk about your lifestyle. Do you enjoy quiet mornings? Do you like reading alone? Do you need personal space on weekends? Do you wish to maintain connections with your late spouse's family? These may sound like small things, but they are exactly what make up the peace and comfort of your everyday life. And if they are not shared and understood ahead of time, they can easily turn into barriers later on. Lastly, talk about boundaries. What are you willing to share and what do you need to keep for yourself? Not because you are hiding anything, but because you need space to breathe, to recharge, to be your full self without judgment. Communication is not about arguing. It is about understanding. It is not about deciding who is right or wrong. It is about creating a mutual agreement where both people can feel comfortable, supported, and at ease. Only with that clarity from the beginning can love in later life feel like a gift, not a burden. And after all those honest conversations, there is one thing you must not forget: yourself. Because while love can be shared, independence is something worth keeping. At this stage of life, the most valuable thing you have is not money, not even your health, it is your independence. Not just the ability to take care of yourself, but also your autonomy in how you think, how you live, what you feel, and what habits you choose to keep. It is the result of a lifetime of effort, sacrifices, and learning how to stand strong through life's challenges. So when entering a new relationship, do not rush to give up your freedom just to have someone by your side. Remember, you no longer need to sacrifice in order to be loved. At this age, love should not feel like something heavy you have to carry. It should feel like a space where you can breathe, where you are free to be exactly who you are, without forcing yourself to fit into someone else's mold. Keeping your independence does not mean closing yourself off. It means knowing what you want, what you need, and holding on to the things that make you you. Maybe that means peaceful mornings with tea, evenings listening to soft music, occasional trips with old friends, or even just the way you like to fold your blanket, cook your meals, or decorate your home. Someone who truly loves you will not ask you to give those things up. In fact, they will respect and cherish them, because those are the parts of you they chose to be with. Do not believe that love means changing who you are just to fit. Change can happen, but only when it is voluntary, not because you feel pressured to keep someone around. And if you feel you are not ready to fully share your living space, that is completely okay. There are many ways to love and to be with someone without having to live under the same roof. What matters most is that you still feel free inside even when someone is beside you. And if you still want that sense of connection, while holding on to your personal space, there is another way, something gentler, more comfortable, yet still full of love, living apart together. This is not a shallow or non-committal kind of love. It is a mature form of connection where two people are bonded by emotion, not by merging every single part of daily life. You and your partner can meet a few times a week, share dinners, take walks, have deep conversations, but still maintain separate homes, separate routines and personal spaces to return to. This allows you to keep your independence while still enjoying love and companionship when it matters most. Living apart together works well for people who already have adult children, personal assets, or who are simply used to living alone and do not want to dramatically change their lives for someone else. It also removes the pressure of having to adjust constantly or always needing to compromise, because both individuals still have room to process their feelings, their thoughts, and their rhythm of life. Do not be afraid of judgment. Everyone has the right to choose a kind of love that feels right for them. And if living apart together helps you protect your peace, your freedom, and your sense of self, then that may be the kind of love that is meant for you. Whether you choose to live together or live apart, there is one thing you must always carry with you on this new journey, and that is emotional readiness. Because love in our later years does not rely solely on feelings. It also requires preparation. When entering a relationship at this stage in life, what matters most is not how much you love that person, but whether your heart and mind are truly ready for what lies ahead. Love, when we are young, can come from sparks and passion. But love in our later years needs clarity, maturity, and the ability to be gentle with life's imperfections, because by now everyone has a past, sometimes filled with pain, and sometimes with deep scars that no one else can see. If you go into a relationship hoping that this time will make up for everything, or that this person will finally bring perfect happiness, you may be placing unrealistic expectations on something that was never meant to be flawless. Marriage, whether it is the first or the second, is still a union between two very different people, with different histories, habits, personalities, and unresolved baggage. There will be differences. There will be days when you feel tired. There will be compromises. And sometimes you may even question whether you made the right choice. But that does not mean you made a mistake. It just means you are living honestly in a real relationship. What you truly need is someone who makes you feel at ease when they are around, not someone who makes you feel like you have to hold everything together just to keep the peace. You do not need a perfect marriage. You need a connection that is honest enough to let you grow old peacefully. So step into it with a soft heart, not expecting perfection, but also not accepting anything that makes you lose yourself. When you are realistic and gentle with life, you will see that happiness does not come from having everything in place. It comes from feeling peaceful, balanced, and being completely yourself. There is nothing wrong with getting remarried in your later years, but there is also no need to rush. At this age, you are not looking for someone to fill a void. You are looking for someone who allows you to feel like your whole self and still feel complete. If you are thinking about starting a new relationship, give yourself a little more time to listen, a little more clarity, and above all, a little more love for yourself. Because when you truly understand what you need, you will no longer trade away your freedom or suffer through regret, just to hold on to something that was never quite right. And if you are already in a relationship, but your heart still feels unsettled, then I hope this video serves as a mirror, not to blame, but to reflect, to understand, and to help you realign with what your heart truly needs. Before you go, leave a positive note in the comments, like I deserve to be loved without having to lose myself. Think of it as a commitment to yourself and an inspiration for others walking the same path. Do not forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so that each week we can sit down together again to listen to share stories, experiences, and gentle lessons that still carry deep meaning. See you in the next video where we continue this journey not just to live longer, but to live deeper and to live happier.